She doesn't even go here.
I'm bi, actually.
Excuse me. Could the ugly, untalented gays please report to the principal's office?
Hi, I'm Kurt Homo, and I'll be auditioning for the role of kicker.
Hello! Welcome to Not So Straight Nerds. I'm your host, Alicia.
I am the other one, Luke.
The other one?
The other one.
Yeah, another one. Anyways, so today we're talking about the last 3 episodes of Andor Season 2, and I guess the whole show, because there's not going to be any more, because next is Rogue One, so go watch Rogue One after that. We haven't. Anyways, it's fine. I wanted to, but it's fine. Yeah, we're going to talk about episodes 10, 11, and 12.
And then kind of how it fits into the overall show.
Yeah, and leading into Rogue One.
For sure.
You know. And then we're going to talk about, which episode is it of The Last of Us?
The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 5.
Episode 5. So we have 2 left. 2 weeks left. We have one coming out in a couple days, and then the next week, and then we're done.
And that feels crazy.
It does feel crazy. It's a very short season. And then we're probably going to have to wait 2 or 3 years for the next one. Yay!
I don't think there was a huge gap
TV.
with these two. Well, maybe 2 tops.
2 years. But that's still crazy.
It is intense.
I appreciate Hulu for the most part, which this is good for Paradise, which is also a show that released on Hulu. This is good news for that because that got renewed for a season 2, and typically Hulu gets the ball rolling pretty fast.
But also
with
Hulu
its
makes a lot cheaper shows.
Yeah.
Because comparing Paradise and The Last
Ab
of Us
Elementary
those kind of shows to what HBO tries to do.
Yeah.
They're very different approaches to shows.
Yeah, but I also feel like part of that, and I do think that's a big part of it, but I also think another part,
greenlighting.
Yes, it's a problem when you wait for your entire show to come out because you're trying to see how the audience feels about it. It's like they don't want to take a risk anymore, and financially I can understand that, but it is also hurting you financially because then audiences don't want to wait 2 or 3 years for a new season.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at you, Stranger Things. What are we going on, 5 now? I don't even know. It's a lot. Somebody pointed out that we got both seasons of Andor before we got season 5 of Stranger Things after season 4.
That's crazy.
I haven't fact checked that, but honestly, would believe it. Absolutely. But anyways, yeah. So that's interesting. And it's interesting that Disney Plus is also kind of doing that, except for Percy Jackson, but that's different because they greenlight that earlier. So I think that's part of it.
I mean, it's because
Disney owns
the executive and I'm in charge of the money of this company being committing to just 1 season of this costs as much as committing to 12 of Paradise for depending on what show they're looking at. Stranger Things certainly along those lines.
Yeah, basically making 8 movies or however many episodes there are gonna be. Crazy.
But then at some point, especially you got to get that train rolling early on.
Yeah.
Where it's if you're going to put the money into the show,
yeah.
Why would you invest so much money and effort into a show that you don't anticipate kicking off unless you're going to make it a limited series and that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
In which case,
do whatever you want. Yeah.
When it works.
Yeah.
But
otherwise,
if you're looking for a show to move on, then start it up as though you're anticipating it going on.
Yep.
I would say for these kind of shows, anticipate greenlighting a season 2 immediately. Mm-hmm. Or else don't bother because are you going to be able to get that far?
Yeah. Well, and you could always greenlit the show, and if it's a complete and utter failure and you've already started filming, just stop and just cancel it and just take the L. It's going to be okay. But anyways, we're going to talk about Andor first, which is, not having that problem because it's over.
Well, it won't have that problem.
Not in the future.
It overcomes the problem.
Yeah. We'll see.
But
also, the first half was slow, so that's also a part of it. But yeah, audiences might have tuned out as well, having to wait.
We'll see. We'll get into that. Before we get too much deeper into the conversation, vibe check.
What's the vibe? How
are the vibes? You tell me.
I'm pretty good. I don't know. I'm excited to talk about both of these. I'm excited to talk about the stuff in the next episode, which is Final Destination. Ooh. Very excited. I actually liked all 3 of the things we're talking about in the next 2 episodes, so I feel pretty good. What about you?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little anxious because I have to fly tomorrow. And that's I'm not anxious about flying. I'm anxious about having to be up at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
to go over there. Ugh.
Yeah. Although those vibes at the airport, I feel like are gonna be so awesome, right?
Love flying. And then
Yeah.
sometimes like when you're on a
especially
plane
when
with,
no
like,
one's
the
there.
TV and it's like the perfect time to be like, oh, I forgot about this movie,
Mhm.
and I've never seen it. And then watching
Yeah.
it, having your first experience on a plane, something about that. I watched Knives Out for the first time on a plane.
Okay. I watched The Nun
That's joy.
because I was trying to avoid jet lag, so I wanted to watch something that was gonna help me stay up. You know, I didn't see Crazy Rich Asians for the first time on a plane, but that is a really good plane movie. I love that movie. I watched that the last time I went on a plane. So
Maybe a little related, but maybe the first Final Destination would have been a good one to keep you up on a plane.
yeah, that's actually really true. But I didn't know that. I probably at the time of watching The Nun didn't know those movies existed, to be honest with you.
Shame.
So it
Shame.
was a long time ago.
Okay, I think.
Anyways, let's
we'll
just
hop
get
right
in.
into
Yeah.
Andor. Let's start our conversation on, I'll say, the last 3 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about those. I think overall, these ones had a lot more emotion, I would say, coming directly from the characters.
Yeah.
I think the last 3 episode bundle we got gave a lot of emotion, but I think more in the vein of,
Just what was happening.
the concept of what's happening there and how it relates to what we see today and all of the emotions tied into that.
Yeah.
So, but this episode and this kind of packet that we got this week gives a lot more from the actual characters themselves.
Yeah.
Which I think
agree
is
with that.
a big strength.
Yes.
I think it's interesting that I feel like, not every episode packet we've gotten of this show really has that. And I also think it's interesting that we don't get a lot of that from our main character, Cassian Andor.
Yeah. It felt nice to actually look at him as a main character again. Because he's a good main character.
Yeah,
But then it's like they forgot. And so then it's like, well, this feels disjointed. And then you see him back again and you're like, this is great. Where was this in the first half? Lots of things.
There's a lot to think about. I feel like this show almost needed a different name.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I would say but season 1 is Andor's show.
Yeah.
Season 2 is just like an ensemble show with Cassian Andor.
Yeah, they could have renamed
an interesting
it.
Trade-off.
That's funny.
It's very weird, and I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily suffers from that, because was Cassian Andor's name going to draw people into the show who weren't there already? I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, because I mean, like the people who were there and like Andor were there for season 1, so of course they were going to watch season 2.
But then maybe that could be something that kind of turns away the general audience if it's like, oh, I don't know what Andor is. Because, is that a planet? Is that...
Yeah, especially when you have a planet called Endor with an E.
Maybe,
crazy.
Maybe if they sold it more as like the Tales of the Rebellion or something more like...
The events that led towards
what this show
Rogue
will be
One.
if you watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting idea, because definitely that's what season 2's essentially pitched as.
Yeah.
Tales of the Rebellion.
I agree.
Which is interesting, because they have a lot of Tales, like, short series that they do, which is, like, Tales of the Underworld was the one that came out this year, Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Sith. Tales of the Underworld was actually pretty good at. And it's crazy that those Tales of Star Wars series have, like, the best animation in, like, all of the Star Wars content.
Yeah.
That and Visions is, like, crazy inspired.
I'm dying.
Yeah,
I do have asthma, so if I ever sound wheezy, that's why. So, like right now.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to just jump right into our pros and cons?
I would love to.
Okay. So, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Sure, ladies first.
Thanks. Okay, so I put... Oh, do you want to do a spoiler-free section, or just kind of... Okay. Okay. So, Luthen has a great episode... And I really think that was a strong point for the whole season for me, maybe even the whole show. I don't know. It was very fascinating to see what went down go down. That's what I'm going to say about that.
Sure, sure.
I think it's great, and I feel like I need a rewatch because later on there were several characters that were talking poorly of him, or more like they didn't, take him seriously. They said they couldn't rely on him. He was an extremist, blah, blah, blah. And I, was sad about that because I didn't know that was a thing. So I guess they probably talked about it before, maybe a lot, and I just don't remember. If that was something that happened in season 1, I probably don't remember. But I was like, that sucks because, we have basically a whole episode of how he's a great and giant part of the rebellion. And then the council of the rebellion are talking poorly of him, which does not make them look good, which they're not supposed to look good in that scene. But anyways, it's frustrating because he had a really good scene. But anyways, we'll get more into what happened and what went down later. Dedra. Okay, how do I dance around this? Her ending was satisfying.
Sure.
There you go. Her. It was more satisfying than I think I was anticipating, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it just feels like, especially where we left her and Cyril, it felt like they were leading towards this has to come to a point where, they're not where they expected to be.
Yep.
So.
And the way, where she ends up is so satisfying, and it also has great commentary on fascism affects everybody, not just its not just the intended victims. It's literally everybody, even those involved or in support of.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I saw an interview of Dedra's actress. I don't know if I have her name out here. I had it somewhere though. I could probably find it.
Poor actress. I bet she's getting hate.
Well, but the thing is, she's very actively speaking about a lot of the stuff that you're seeing in Andor and was, before season 2 came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps the way that she portrays the character. And then she's talking about how with her character, people think that fascism is supposed to hurt the people who aren't setting it up and then build up the people who are part of it. But she's like, that's not true. It actually doesn't help anyone. And once the people it's originally targeting are put through the ringer, they'll turn to the next people, and then eventually it'll start cannibalizing itself.
Yep. It's very fascinating. I liked the commentary on that.
That. Gao. I will say,
she did great.
She's great throughout this show, but there's definitely a lot of parts in season 2 that just completely elevate her character.
I agree. I also put... Oh, okay, I can't say that one. I'm going to skip that one. The one in all caps. We'll get back to it.
Yeah, we'll circle back.
Let's just say no. Let's move on. Actually, I'm gonna get myself in trouble.
Well, I'll hop into this on the same vein of that conversation. They add a lot of really sad connections into Rogue One.
Yeah.
That make everything in that movie just a lot more emotional.
Yeah.
And it creates a really sad kind of connotation that we know where Andor's story leads and. We go into the show seeing. We know
probably more than he does.
Yeah, and then it still completely changes the outcome, the emotional weight that Rogue One carries now going. Because
it was always sad. It was always one of my favorite in a way that it's beautifully done, but heartbreaking at the same time. Scenes when they're on that planet. I guess spoilers for Rogue One, but I'll dance around it. But yeah, just to see what they added here. Somehow made it worse. I don't know how they did that, but they did it.
Yeah,
they did it really well.
Leave before, and then they somehow make it get even worse.
Yeah, you're like, damn. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's, and it doesn't feel cheap either. It still feels really well done.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just there for the effect, but it adds a lot to the story, I think. But anyways, I wanted to shout out some of my favorite characters from this last little what have you been calling it? Episode packet?
Our package of episodes.
I like that.
This week.
That's very nice. Clea, my love you.
Played by Elizabeth TLOU.
And apparently it's her first acting role, or at least major acting role. But I've seen acting role. Period.
It's her first thing out of college.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Somebody on the show compared her to Meryl Streep. That's wild. That's a huge compliment, and you run with that and take it and run with it, girl, because You earned it. Like, that's awesome. You did a great job. You were a lot of people's favorites from this season.
Yeah, including, like, mine. Like, I would say her and K2SO, who's featured prominently in these 3 episodes.
That's my other favorite. Hey, K2SO.
Are my favorite characters in this show.
Yeah. K2SO is just so funny. Like,
he's so blunt.
He's such a ride or die, and I love that for him. Yeah.
He's great, but... Yeah,
and then, it has a great lead into Rogue One. Those are my pros.
Yeah, I also want to say, still on Elizabeth TLOU, who plays Leia, I saw a thing saying that her role, like her performance in Season 1, made them want to give her a bigger role in Season 2, which is great. There's an episode that features her essentially as the main character, and it is, I would say, of these last 3 episodes, the strongest.
Yeah, I would say so.
And it's almost...
She does some great work in these last 3 episodes.
It's
in
great,
particular.
and I love her. And I would say she's probably my strongest, like, plot line throughout this entire season.
Yeah.
Like every time we were seeing what Clea was doing, I was like, "This is awesome."
This
like
is
whenever
great.
she's like sneaking into
more.
the party to like take the bug out, I was all for it. Whenever she's talking with Andor about like staying and like leaving,
yeah.
Like, oh, and she sold some great lines. I think Disney is very lucky to have discovered her. I can very easily see her, because clearly they acknowledged that she was really talented and tried to blow her up a little more, which I think the internet is now officially, like, struck by her. So I would love to see some more, like, carryover. Like, here's my pitch. Do you think she could play maybe a god or something in one of the Percy Jackson seasons? Because I think she has some great like, goddess energy.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, if you wanted to go the more like superhero round, we're talking a lot about the X-Men right now. I don't know what X-Men she would fit into.
Hear me out. Kitty Pryde?
Ooh, okay, that kind of eats. Yeah.
That could
no,
be
that's
fun.
what I was thinking of, because there's a lot of discussion on the X-Men casting right now. So
and she's already in the Mouse Kingdom, so she's definitely on
she's
someone's
already there.
radar.
Honestly, Percy Jackson or Marvel, that would be great for her, and I would be very excited, and I would watch it. So yeah.
Ooh.
I feel like Percy Jackson would be way more aligned with what she's doing in this show. And I don't know if she has the range to do something like, which, not like, I don't know. I don't want people to be like, you don't need range for Marvel movies. But, like, it is way different. So that is range.
It's a completely different thing. And
yeah.
I will say she's not doing a lot of, like, physical stuff here.
Yeah,
and
that's what I mean.
Up, like, like, it takes a lot of work to do that stuff. There's a reason there's, like, super training-intensive stuff that they have to go through to, like, be in those roles. It's
so,
intense.
We'll see. But either one, the Percy Jackson is a very good idea. Yeah, I agree.
So
do you have any other...
we'll be seated anywhere that she is next.
Yeah, or something outside of Disney, like an original film, like whatever she wants to do, whatever she's interested in.
I think right
go
now
and do
her
it.
Best play, since she's still riding a peak, especially this early on.
Yeah.
I think if she wanted to build momentum, I don't know, maybe a Disney Plus or another streaming show would be a really good
I think
for
so.
her. And then kind of keep building up towards maybe something more movie level. But however she gets there.
Like, she could fit into... I feel like she has the face for, like, House of the Dragon, like Game of Thrones kind of stuff.
Ooh, some stuff.
Yeah.
Some fantasy.
I don't... Are they based off books?
She kind of gives, like, younger... Oh, what's her name from Game of Thrones? The witch?
I know who you're talking about. Oh, the redheaded witch?
Yes. She kind of gives some of those vibes. Or I think she could give some of those vibes. Missandra.
Yeah. Oh, man, if the Dune Prophecy show was good, I would campaign for that. But I don't think that's getting a second season anymore. It was greenlit, but I want to say it was...
if it stays.
I want to say I saw it canceled.
It did make the Nielsen list.
Okay.
Which,
interesting.
I mean, look at some other...
Not
Disney
nothing.
Plus is begging to be on
Daredevil. Where was Daredevil? But anyways, yeah. So lots of fun stuff there. Did you have any other pros you wanted to... it looks like you do.
I have a good couple. I think there's a lot of great stuff here. We said it leads into Rogue One very well. There's a lot of sadness. Cassian Andor really gets to shine here, which is always great in his own show. But every time we see him, it just is...
Because he totally has the capability to. It's just whether or not the show wants to give him that time.
You know, it almost feels like he might have been like, guys, I don't have that much time here, so film around me because I have to. Doesn't it almost like
it
they
does
had like
give
a limited
that.
amount of time with him for whatever reason?
It's giving Pedro Pascal in the Mandalorian outfit when he like wears it once to have the mask out, and that's it. And then he goes on and does a bunch of other stuff. But I don't know if he's doing anything else. But that's what it's giving.
Yeah, I don't know what else he is. He's not nearly as booked as like Pedro is, but which I think. I don't think he's on the same level as Pedro Pascal because he's just a superstar, but he's very talented. I feel like he could be doing a lot more like shows.
I agree.
I think he'd be great in The Last of Us if he was a character in that.
Ooh, that would eat as well. Yeah.
Like honestly, put him and Pedro in something together, and I bet that would go over really well.
Mm-hmm. That would be fun.
But another thing I really liked, and it's kind of more about the show overall, but I think there's also parts of it here is like why people rebel. There's a flashback episode where like half of the episode is flashbacks, and it touches on that again. I really think that's what makes this show so important, is that it really speaks to the most down to earth and realistic aspects of Star Wars, which is why do people risk their lives to fight the Goliath?
Yeah.
And this like huge power that, when you look at it, there's no way. And, this gives a great idea about why people join that fight. How do you join that fight in a smart way? And, just looking at like the politics of it all and how there's sacrifice there, moral and, internal.
Yeah.
It's all, it's all very high level, very good words. I'm having a bit of a brain fart, but it's but the ideas are all really well established within like what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like the ideas are all there. Whoever like is like the story writer on this has all of the right ideas.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think whoever like actually does like the screenwriting, and not always, but like they can write scenes really good. I feel like they struggle to make a comprehensive, like, start like and end through episodes.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, even overall as a season, I'd say it's pretty solid, but it's like they don't know how to balance one episode.
Yeah.
To be like, it's going to start at a point, things are going to happen that are connected to each other in some way, whether that's thematic or chronologically, but things are going to happen and build to something, and then it's going to stop, and that in one piece is something to push forward and can be watched as one thing. Sometimes I think episodes of this show are that.
Sometimes.
I would say most of them. And in this case, I would say possibly half are not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. But back to the why people rebel, I really appreciate how, in my mind, Star Wars has so heavily pushed that it's not about not being afraid of the big Goliath anymore. It's about just doing it because in your heart, you have to. Like, it's the right thing to do, and it's like you literally can't, like, not help. And I think that's really inspiring because there's several main characters, side characters all around that are visibly scared every time they, go on a mission or have a confrontation or are challenged in some way. And I think that's very interesting. I kind of like that they show what bravery is, and it's not just like...
It's not fearlessness.
No, it's not fearlessness at all. Sometimes it can be, like sometimes, but a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's like... They're
two different traits.
Doing something despite being afraid, and I think that's really cool. It's very important, too, because a lot of people now, facing a lot of hardships, they don't want to fight back because they're scared to. But I think that's, that's very normal. So it's okay to be scared. Very normal. If Luke Skywalker can be scared, you can be scared.
Yeah,
so
he was a whiny bitch sometimes. So
yeah,
it's never too
and
late
you can
to
whine
stop.
about it too, because so did he. So it's okay. You're validated. It's fine. Yeah. But yeah. Nice.
What else? And then K2SO, so great, so funny,
so
such
funny,
a beast.
Yeah.
Oh, so great. He was
Gotta
such a
love
fun
it.
addition. It feels like he almost should have been introduced a little quicker.
I agree.
And then it would have had a, like, because every time he's on screen, it's just, like, a joy in what's otherwise really heavy.
Yeah.
It feels like his presence more early on would have done a lot. And, like, we
Yeah.
ditched the bot that was on the planet that they were hiding out
It's
on
true.
at the beginning, so he never ended up really serving any purpose. He was pitched as, like, the like, R2-D2 or whatever of the Andor show in season 1.
Don't do that
I
to
completely
him.
forgot that he was in this
Yeah.
show until he showed up. And I watched episode 1. So it's all, I don't know.
Well, and I've seen some complaints of people saying, I wish we got something within that year time jump. I agree. Especially when, like, the first half, you had a lot of stuff that didn't really pay off in any way, didn't really matter, were really boring. Get that away and, you know, start things earlier. Start interesting things earlier, or do something in the first half that pays off later in a better way. So, yeah, what can you do?
It's all goofy. I said, Clea, my love. And then, and then it's perfectly into Rogue One.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at all yours. Bail Organa. Recast there. Very strong.
Yeah, he does a great job. I agree. I liked his line about, if I die, I want to go out swinging. I'm like, I love that for you.
Clea and Luthen, they continue to be a team. I really love the idea that now they can feel that they're coming close to the end of something. And I love the line where Clea is like, we can only do this thing if it's absolutely perfect. And then Luthen has the great line of, I think we ran out of perfect a while ago. And I was like,
Oh yeah, I loved that line.
Is a great
We used
line.
up all the
They used
perfect
up
or
all the
something.
perfect.
Yeah.
Such a great line. Skarsgård is really great in this role.
Great. There's so many talented Skarsgård.
It's crazy.
People.
They someone like
sometimes they have
Middle
wild
litter.
role choices,
For sure.
but you know,
overall
they
very
do a good
talented
job.
family.
Yeah.
But overall, and their relationship is explored, and it's very interesting and heartbreaking. And I think it leads into the idea of why we feel so much more connected to Luthen.
Yeah.
Whenever they're talking about him on the like Rebellion Council.
Yeah. Because that's true. Because we see
if
it.
we didn't literally see all that.
That is so true. Yeah. I don't know, but that
and
leads...
it puts us in the same vein of how Andor feels whenever they're in that conversation. So it's interesting. And then I also put Bix. She doesn't have a huge presence here, but it's still.
She has an
but
important
overall,
one.
She's still. It's just so crazy that I feel like I overlooked her so much in the first season.
Yeah.
When she's like such a important cornerstone to this season. I feel like I could rewatch season 1 and have a completely different experience than I did the first time.
Yeah, I kind of want to. Maybe this summer. I already have a few things on my list, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll definitely see.
Anyways.
And then I said the set visuals are great, but that's what you get from a Star Wars show.
Yeah, it does. That's one of the highlights for sure. Well,
Onto
speaking
cons.
of the council, that leads in my con that there's always a line in a TV show when you do something that you know is going to be intentionally boring, or not boring, annoying
Or
and aggravating. Yes. Because you have the perspective of the main character who knows more and is more empathetic, and they're just like, we don't know that, whatever. But it's very annoying that the council would hear, hey, the Empire has plans to make this massive weapon. And they're just like, but can we believe that? I'm like, wouldn't you want to, like, oh, I don't know,
Do you really
look
think you can
into
afford
it?
Not to?
Yeah. What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if you didn't have Cassian Andor, who helped y'all anyways, and helped destroy it, or get the plans to destroy it, rather? I'm like, y'all are dumb. It reminds me of how I felt in Revenge of the Sith about the Jedi. I'm like, nobody wanted to, like, oh, I don't know, double check that Anakin was good with Palpatine by himself. Nobody wanted to double check that, especially when you knew he was turning evil. Or, like, not turning evil, that Palpatine was evil. I'm like, oh, I don't know. You didn't want to, like, check that you're not being very nice to him and you're sending him to this very powerful and influential figure evil figure and you're not going to like double check that nothing's happening there. Wild choices here. But anyways, there's a line where it goes a little too far, where it actually like declines your experience of the show. And that was happening for me during that scene.
I think we constantly have conversations about this, and it's like, you know, because obviously I think this is something that needed to happen, because the whole start of our run with Andor is that he's on the mission
logically
to confirm this.
Makes sense, yeah.
So, but, you know, how do you fix this and make it, you know, not annoying but more a complex situation for these characters?
Yeah, it's more
tell us
like
what
nuanced.
Luthen did to make them so untrustworthy.
Exactly.
Like,
I was like, what did he do to y'all? Like,
because we see Saul Guerrera, who he's compared to.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen enough stuff to know that Saw Gerrera, like, even if he's on my side, I want him nowhere near me at any given point.
Yeah. So maybe surely something like that happened, but we don't know that. We've gone through the work
to see why Saw Gerrera is not someone you want to send your person to if you want them back alive.
Yep.
Luthen, I will say, they've made some points, like whenever he kills... Well, I can't say that.
Kill somebody.
But, you know, he makes sacrifices in the field.
Yeah.
And breaks promises that are made. But we don't see anything that would, like, push back to the greater cause overall, which is ultimately what's important here.
They may not like how he does things, but he's always doing something for the rebellion.
Yeah.
So, like, why would you not trust him? You don't have to like him. That's fine. But why would you sit there and be like, well, I don't know if he was telling the truth?
It feels to me...
And they tried to be like, well, what if he was being manipulated?
To me, it feels like they're bordering into what I think is a really annoying comparison. Like, I remember for a while, like, I think one of the Star Wars games came out, and it was like, are you a Sith or a Jedi? And there's that conversation of, well, the Sith are, like, the same as the Jedi. They just, like, think from a different perspective. And it's like, no.
You're like, not really.
Actually, one is like
I can be annoyed. Yeah, I can be annoyed by the Jedi and still very clearly be like, well, they're still the good guys. They're just bad at being the good guys. Here's the actual bad people who are unfortunately really good at being bad.
That conversation, I think maybe also a hot take. The only like Star Wars media that has taken that conversation to any interesting level is the Acolyte. I think it falls a little flat towards the end of it, but.
Yeah, or like I feel like Ahsoka has a little bit of sprinkles in there with, you know, she's not either one. She's not a Jedi, but she's definitely not Sith. I think that's what's always had me been one of the reasons I've been drawn to her as a character. It's just she's so interesting in that she actually has the nuance there to have the conversation of, well, I may not be evil, but I don't want to be a part of the Jedi either, and she has a really good reason to. She's like a perfect example of the flaws in the Jedi. So.
But in regards to going back to like the rebellion in general, like it feels like they're almost starting to get into a point where it's like, oh, look at how similar the rebellion is to the Empire, and it's like, well, but one literally just did a genocide 2 episodes ago, so
perhaps there's a difference. Sorry guys, that's a hot take. Perhaps there's a difference.
We can get over the fact that they don't like this guy that they've never met.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. There's an interesting conversation there. So,
and I kind of felt the same way with Mon's speech, and it's a great speech.
Okay.
But it's another thing where I can so clearly hear the speech, and it's talking about what's true and putting words to power and like calling things as they are, and there's power in that. And I can so clearly see people taking that and twisting it into something that they're not saying in the show.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
It's interesting. I wonder if maybe there's a commentary on that they're like just on like the outskirts of this show, that they're just like slightly tinging on it on purpose.
Okay.
I don't know. It's very weird. I feel like it's not a great conversation to have. Maybe it's a real one, but I don't know. It's just an interesting thing that I noticed coming up twice towards the better half of this show.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Any other cons?
We've already talked about it, but the first half of season 2 was just not good.
It's really slow, and it does not tie in nearly as much as it needs to into the second half for it to have been as slow as it was. Because it's not even building into anything we see.
Yeah, like I feel like I can see where people might say Severance can be slow at times, but I feel like there's just so much payoff that I don't even care, because I know they're going to do something with this. Yeah. So I don't care if they take their time with the scene, if they take 30 seconds just to like slowly pan a camera around to see like an emotional state on a character's face. Cool, because I know that's going to pay off later. That's doing something. Mm-hmm. It's actively adding to the story. This is just slow and boring. That's the difference. It's okay to be slow. It's not okay to be boring.
Yeah.
So, and it not pay off. So.
Did I say anything else? Oh, the episodes. This is true for like a good handful of these episodes.
Yeah.
But I think for like the first, or at least the middle one, here in this package, they have some really weird and abrupt endings for some of these episodes.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I remember there was like at least 4 times this season where the episode ends, and I'm like, oh.
I feel like they just pressed stop, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, where it feels like whoever was like deciding what scenes are going into each episode isn't really looking. Maybe they're looking too much at like maybe the whole picture and not looking at the small episode that they're currently working on, or something. But like something in the way they're putting some of these episodes together, it feels like they forget they're making episodes of a show and not just a bunch of mini movies.
Yep.
But then they don't even end on like a point where it's like, and this is the end of something. It's like, end of scene. What's going to happen next? Oh, well, that's the next episode. But it's not going to be what we're cutting to at all. It's just, it's very weird. It feels very weird to me.
Crazy. There are ways to be like, here's what's happening next, without literally showing that scene and just cutting it and then starting it the next episode. Like, there's a way to build it, like build into it, and have that still curve around and be like a proper ending, and then lead into it again at the start of the next episode. So,
you know, I think I'll maybe jump to this little point. Let me see who they were, because this was the show made by the person who came in and supposedly fixed Rogue One.
I heard about that.
And the person who originally was directing Rogue One went on to make The Creator, which I really loved. I think I remember you liking it.
Yeah, I liked it too. A lot, actually.
Yeah, I think that was a super underrated movie that year.
I agree.
So I think it's actually interesting to see, because while I loved The Creator, and I think even within how it's a little bit nicher than most like blockbusters are, I think it still didn't get its due as a movie that wasn't like targeting it like to $1 billion.
Yeah.
But then I think it's really interesting to see like this half, because I think I'm maybe at the conclusion that Rogue One was a combination of these two forces.
She got her food, guys. She got her food.
Like you see what I mean? Like
yes.
It feels like
Rogue
the same
One
situation. Was so great because it is the combination of this person's vision and what he wanted to do, and then they said it wasn't mainstream enough, so they brought in this person, and he kind of like maybe refined the edges of what was already there to make it something that just completely hit off.
Yeah.
But I really think that at least within the same vein of like these same characters in the same universe, it feels like at least the one who took over can't reach the same peak without the other in a huge comprehensive way.
Yep. I agree. You need both parts of the puzzle. You either need someone who's just really good on their own, or you need the two parts of the puzzle you had in the first place.
But I mean, it's and I'm not saying that they'd like there's even a world where they would be like, hey, you make a lot of movies alone, I make a lot of movies alone, let's direct together on this one that I took your job. And you know, that was nowhere in the cards, but I think it's just interesting that that's kind of where my brain lands.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's a good point to mention. So, yeah. Want to go to the next up section?
I would love to. Actually, before we do that, I think we can go more into spoiler territory.
Stuff? Yeah.
So, you have been warned. We're going to start talking about the more spoilery parts of the end of Andor season
Yeah.
2 and the whole season as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So you have been warned in case that's something you want to watch firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
So
3, 2, 1.
Luthen is dead. Bix and
has a
Andor
baby.
has a baby.
That's crazy. Dedra's in prison. Or Dedra.
Dedra.
I had it right the first time. She's in prison. Loser.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so happy with her ending.
Yeah,
Because I was sitting here being like...
So it's still interesting that it works out so well.
Yeah. Because I was sitting here being like, I can't wait till she dies. And then she gets thrown in prison because they think that she's...
Andor was thrown into?
Yep. Because they think that she's a part of the rebellion, that she's a spy. And I'm like, I love that. That is so much better. So glad she didn't die. This is actually so much better because she gets to suffer after dedicating her whole life, losing what could have been the love of her life for a cause that betrayed her. Boom. Fascism. That's what we were talking about with the fascism affects everybody. Because it does. When they're done finding their intended victims, they're going to turn on you.
Yeah. Oh, and then I really... I also wanted to talk briefly about how great the episode of Clea going into, finish Lutheran's sacrifice.
Yeah.
And how, like, you spend the whole episode seeing her literally, like, hitman her way and, like, change costumes and get into the room and blow off a bomb to distract the guards. And, like, that alone is, like, so cool to watch her do.
Yeah.
And then all the while, as she's getting closer, you see how she met Lutheran and how, she joined this whole cause because of him. And, am I your daughter now when you need to be? And it's like,
oh my God.
It's that episode is another really great one.
Don't bite me. She said, I love your pets. I'm going to bite you to show you I love you.
Okay, Clea.
Wait, there's a term for it. Pet aggression or something like that. I don't know.
I don't know.
Something like that. Anyways.
But all around, that episode was one of the strongest of the show overall, I would say. I would say it's like a knockdown from, say, like the prison breakout scene or the heist. But it's a quieter episode overall, but it's still very effective.
Yeah, I agree.
Then I'm trying to think if there are any other spoilers we super needed to mention.
I don't know.
I think we
talked about Luthen. That whole scene was great. The baby. No, I feel like we got everything.
Yeah. Okay. So overall, what do you rank this season overall?
Rate this season? Oh, that's hard.
And in comparison to season 1.
I don't remember my ranking of season 1. To be honest with you.
If I'm remembering right.
I don't know. I want to say like a 7, which might be high. But I'm like, it ended with like 6, I would say, solid episodes for me, personally. So like, it ended stronger, so it leaves a better taste in my mouth. Sure. So I want to say 7. Realistically, it should probably be a little less, but
it's one of those things where, like, when they're trying to, like, pump up the gas, they pump up the gas.
Right.
Like, every time they're trying to.
Yeah.
They're just not always trying
to. Anyways, we're watching the cat. She's just our free entertainment, where we are your free entertainment. Anyways, yeah. Anything else before we talk about what's next for Star Wars?
Oh, I will say I rank this one.
I
gave it the same rating.
Sorry, I forgot we were talking about
one.
this.
They both are 7.5s for me. So
okay.
So that's
both
about a 3.5 for both. If we're doing like a 5 of stars.
Oh, okay.
That's about what I'd give it.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're very strong when they try to be.
Yeah.
But the episode composition is just. It's just very confusing on what they're trying to do.
Yeah, wasted potential, so it's frustrating.
But they have so many great ideas. The characters surprisingly grow on me. Mm-hmm. And I will say, where I don't think the characters were the strong suit in Season 1, and the episodes themselves were super great in Season 1, it's flipped for Season 2.
Yeah, that's true. at least season 1 had a more consistent, like, okay, these 2 episodes, but they're going to lead to the 3rd one.
Yeah.
These 2 episodes, and that would have been a really cool format for the 3 episode drops. But that's not what happened, so, oh well.
Yeah, I completely agree. But going forward, next up for Star Wars, we have Ahsoka Season 2, which is being filmed right now.
Very excited for that.
Which, love me some Ahsoka. I thought the show was solid, for sure.
Yeah.
I hope they kind of rough the edges a little bit.
Yeah.
And find some very exciting stuff to go with on that. Hopefully they get off that planet I think they were abandoned on at the end of Season 1. Would love to see more Thrawn. Hopefully he feels more Thrawn-ish like he was in Rebels. I didn't watch Rebels when I originally watched Ahsoka. So...
Interesting.
It was... Oh. No, I did, because I was trying to speed through Rebels so I could watch Ahsoka, because I couldn't watch Ahsoka on time.
I remember that. Yeah.
No, but I remember people saying that Thrawn felt a little off, even though he was, like, cast as the same person who did the voice acting. I hope they find a way to make him feel more Thrawn in whatever way. I feel like we just didn't see enough of him to really create kind of a standard for what that character was. So hopefully we see a lot more of him. That's what I really want to see.
Yeah. I am wondering, too, because I really liked the other guy as the villain, but then I think he died. Pretty sure.
Yeah, the actor passed away.
So that sucks. That leaves him in a weird spot.
That guy's apprentice?
Yeah, and she was really interesting. So we'll still have her, and then we'll still have Thrawn, and we'll see.
Yeah,
we
Thrawn
still
alone is a really strong point.
They'll probably have Thrawn take over as the main villain point.
So that's what television looks like for them. We also have Mandalorian and Grogu coming out in 2026.
Yeah.
It's going to be the first Star Wars movie in a while.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm very interested. I feel like The Mandalorian has come into, like, such its own unique thing.
Yeah.
But it's been on the small screen. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how
it can work.
Goes into the big screen.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, looking at some of the other things, like we see The Last Airbender trying to get people to go out to a movie theater for its TV show.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see a couple of people trying to, because the small really screen is so big right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, and I'm curious to see how well it works.
Yeah, but I mean, Star Wars movies, good or not, they've always pulled a good box office. So
Solo
we'll
did
see.
Not.
Oh, that's true. Well, that was like really bad. And I don't think I even saw that in theaters, which is crazy considering I've seen like all the rest that have come out in my lifetime. So I don't know. I feel like I wonder if a lot of other people.
But Pedro Pascal's big. People know Grogu.
Ooh, especially by 2026. Like, he's a hot name right now. That's going to be big. And then, of course, Grogu can be like a Stitch kind of character. Just a cuteness draw.
What do you think that show would look like? Or not show, but what do you think like the movie plot would be?
I have no idea because I need a refresh on what the heck happened in season 3.
I remember
wasn't great.
It was Moff Gideon stealing Grogu so he could give his clones force powers.
Oh my gosh.
And then he was also trying to finish wiping out the Mandalorian so he could be the only one with like the suit and everything.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
So that leaves them trying to reestablish Mandalore and their whole, kingdom and religion and combining all of the things. Maybe there's maybe it's civil war, maybe it's an external threat. Maybe Thrawn comes for them.
Oh, maybe that would be a nice connection. Depending on whatever. Do we have a rough date for Ahsoka 2?
Ahsoka 2? No, I don't know.
It could. I mean,
but they were left on a planet outside of the galaxy that's far, far away. So
yeah, they'd have to find their way back.
Good time gum.
But
time jump.
Jump. Yeah, that could be interesting. So we'll see.
There's a lot they can play with. I just hope they pick something that's a good pitch that you can sell in a trailer, and then I hope they have a lot to build off of with that trailer.
Yeah, and then you said after that, eventually, as far as I know, we're still supposed to get a Rey Solo movie. So we'll see. Personally, I'm excited because I've always loved Rey. I don't care what people say. I will always like her. So I don't care if you're allowed to like Hayden Christensen now after people for like a decade hated him, I'm allowed to like Rey. Let me have my moment, okay? Thank you. She also was not the problem of those. I would say specifically 8 and 9. She was not the problem. It was the writers. So get some better writers on, and we're talking, okay? So let's see.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
So in terms
no idea
of,
what that would look like, but I don't even know like if they're still doing it or not.
Do you think Star Wars is going to start moving away from maybe some of these prequel shows, or do you think they're going to try and keep making it work?
I don't know. I've heard a lot of people want more from between. Why am I blinking? Between episodes 6 and 7.
Okay.
To see. I don't know. It's hard because it's not even like we can rebuild the Jedi Order because we know what happens there.
Between 6 and 7 is Mandalorian and Grogu.
Oh, yeah. So it.
And Ahsoka. So
yeah.
we are actively getting that.
That is true. So maybe just some more of that. Maybe just some more independent stuff, like the Acolyte, just kind of from nowhere. Mm-hmm. Just build something, build some lore there. So
and,
yeah.
With the Acolyte, there's not a whole lot of interest in going beforehand.
Yeah.
Whether that's
unfortunately
the problem with the show or that was always going to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there is an issue with trying to jump between the timelines now more than ever.
Yeah.
Because, you were always going to get the canon police,
mm-hmm.
but I think now that there's so many other options with streaming,
mm-hmm.
people are going to be listening to the canon police louder than they should
yeah.
take that as
because they're not going to waste their time. Yeah, they're going to hear this is not worth your time, and they're going to watch something else. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, very true. So we'll see. We'll see.
Very interesting. Is there any other character you can think of that you'd like to maybe see explored more?
Oh,
I would say
Ventress.
Outside of someone. Ooh.
I love Ventress.
You know that she's the main character. She has half of the Underworld series.
Yes. Also, anything with Darth Maul, whatever that needs to look like, whatever timeline they want to explore with him, I love those two.
That would be somewhere between the Clone Wars, where we see him leave right after Order 66. I don't care,
just do mini episodes. I just want to see him. He's just fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's very fun. He's very scary.
Mm-hmm.
But he's dead as of, because he's killed in Rebels.
Yeah.
So he's dead from New Hope going forward. So we won't see him again.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, even if you have to go back, just give me like a mini episode, please. I just want something. I just want Grumps, please. Yeah, but Ventress, could be really cool.
Yeah, she'd be pretty old at this point.
Yeah.
Because she's already way older than Luke, and we saw how old he looked. But who knows? Maybe because she's a witch, she can pass off as looking younger. She does have some hair now.
Yeah.
Last we saw, anyways. So I would always be down for some more witches. I love witches. I would love for her to show up in Ahsoka season 2.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking
they're
because
fighting the witches anyways. She's perfect for that show.
Well, and that's what I was thinking is most of the characters that came to mind are going to be in stuff like Bo-Katan is probably going to be. I mean, surely.
Mandalorian, sure.
Surely, right? We're going to see Thrawn again. We're going to see the girl with the orange lightsaber. We're going to see Hera, Ezra.
I heard that Zeb is coming into something. It might be Ahsoka season 2.
Okay.
Or the movie. I don't know. But
Either way,
Star Wars continues to be in a very interesting precipice at any given moment.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see them maybe start switching away from so much small screen, which I think is going to be for the best.
Yeah. They should just do more Star Wars animation. Yeah,
I would love if they upped that into a better point, because I think the Bad Batch even did pretty decent numbers when that was coming out.
And that's not a bad show. It's got some good parts.
It starts super strong. I wish I liked the last season of it as much as the first two, but
yeah. What can I do? Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
But yeah.
Anything
else? Let
us
know what you guys think of Andor overall.
Yeah.
And what in Star Wars would you be interested in exploring in a TV show or movie?
What characters do you want to see?
Yeah.
Storylines.
Let us
What do you
know.
think the Rey movie could possibly be about? And at this point, Mandalorian and Grogu. What do you think is going to happen?
Great
So-
questions. Great questions.
Write that down. Anyways.
Moving
Well,
on to The Last of Us,
yeah,
episode
episode
5 of
5.
season 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, some non-spoiler talk of this episode. We see them continue to look for Abby and friends. They make
Yes.
some progress on that. They discover some new, potentially scary stuff going forward. I don't know if it's a contained
Infectious
thing
stuff?
or if we're going to see that more later.
I would think we would
They
see that
add
more.
something that was an element in the game that they heavily kind of kicked out in season 1. So it's interesting to see them bring it here for like for a second. I'm interested to see if that's something they continue
It goes
going forward.
anywhere. You would think they would, but I don't know.
I don't know.
So we'll see.
But let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else big to mention. I don't think there is. I think this continues to have had a really big 1-2 punch at the beginning. And then
I've enjoyed what has happened, but
it's
yeah,
good, but it's not as eventful as
no,
I would say even season 1 was.
no, and I think the problem is, which is probably a complaint with the game too, is it never tries to be. It like very in the game like comes out real strong and then just kind of goes along. Yeah, and it has like a message it's trying to say. A lot of conversation there on whether or not that was successful, and it seems like there may be changing some things here, possibly, potentially. We'll see. I don't know.
I think it's really interesting, the idea, and I think it's going to be... We had a similar conversation when we were talking about the live-action adaptations of How to Train Your Dragon 1 and 2, where it's like, you're having a series of stuff come,
Yeah.
but your viewers already know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
And especially what the themes and conversations are going to be.
Yep.
So it's like, we've been having these conversations about the themes of the cycle of violence and, is it valid to keep that going forward? Are you, betraying the person who died last if you end that? And kind of those ideas that the show's experimenting with. But, all of the people who played the game already had, well, I don't know if the gamers necessarily had the conversation, but it was a conversation that was at least brought up.
Yeah.
And had in some capacity. And in this case, we can look at the game and have the conversation based off the game.
Yep.
While we're waiting for 2 more episodes of the first half of the game being adapted.
Yeah.
So
So we're gonna have these conversations for a long time.
it's I don't know. It's interesting if you're going to, but then I guess they are changing it in some capacity, at least the pacing, because like we'll say later, we still see no side of Abby and no side of her either.
Nope.
So
Clearly they're doing something there or nothing. They're doing something by doing nothing. And then even Dina's character, I'm not going to say a lot, but it seems like they're doing something different with her, which I personally would like, because I don't like something that happens in the game. But it would be
no idea what she's
it would
done.
be a really big change. So we'll see. And they haven't, I don't know, have they done that big of a change yet?
I mean, I will say from my idea of what the game was is that it switches back and forth really regularly between Abby and Ellie, and that's not happening here.
Nope.
And the idea that you switch between Abby and Ellie...
Doesn't seem like it's happening next episode either, so...
And it's like, I think you have to kind of see their storylines side by side to get to that comparison of them being the same.
Ooh.
Otherwise, you're just not seeing them on the same level.
Yeah.
And you're almost forced to see one side when when the whole point of
when
the
you're
show
only
is
given one side,
trying to see that they're the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's frustrating because you even see the hypocrisy in that in this episode.
Yeah.
Trying to compare them trying to say that they're the same because they're just not.
And I
trying to say that like what Abby did to Joel was the same as what he did to Abby's dad is just objectively wrong.
Yeah.
And it's silly to try to see characters even that are not Abby try to say like I agree with that that he deserved it.
He deserved
because he did
to be
this.
tortured for hours.
And killed in front of basically his daughter.
Yeah, it's...
Wild.
It's very interesting. And, you know, I'm sure there's...
Which, you know, maybe that's the point. Is to show the hypocrisy, but then you can't, at the same time, expect us to sympathize with Abby.
Yeah.
You can't, you just can't have both. Which is what the game tried to do.
I'm curious to see how they're going to try to. Because they are already losing so much ground on what was already a really uphill battle.
Yeah. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the big changes. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll still have the conversation, but not in a way where they're sympathize with Abby. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with Abby. I mean, they have the whole part 2, season 3. So maybe most of that will be about Abby versus this season has been almost nothing about her.
Which is, I don't know.
I don't know how I feel about that. We'll see.
Because I really liked Caitlin
Dever.
Caitlin Dever's, other roles a lot. And I've liked what we've seen here. And then I know that you had problems with, her one scene. Which, to be fair, I think the show itself seems... I don't know if it's necessarily just on her, but the show itself seems to be, playing both sides as to what that scene is. Mm-hmm. And you can have the characters feel one way about it, but your show has to be neutral to it.
Yeah. If you want to have a neutral conversation.
Yes.
So we'll see.
And it's interesting. That was the complaint some of the people had about that scene in episode 2, and I didn't feel that way. Mm-hmm. I think with this episode, I'm forced to agree.
Okay.
At least in
and
the
that's
vein,
frustrating.
It is frustrating for sure, because I was really hoping we'd see this side by side.
Yep.
Because that's what a show does. It cuts between plot lines, and but now instead of cutting between Ellie and Abby, the two main characters of the game, we're cutting between Abby and this Seraphite and Wolf War, which, you know, sometimes it's interesting. I'm not watching this show for that.
No.
So it's as interesting as that can get. Yeah. It's not what I came here for. Mm-hmm.
Well, in my understanding of the game, they're still villains, but it's they're a villain to both Ellie and Abby within their storylines. So it's fine to show that. So it's fine to show their storyline, I guess, but then you have to show Abby's too. Mm-hmm. And if that's too crowded, then take away the Seraphites because they're not the main storyline, or they're not supposed to be. So I don't know, because that was my complaint, is I wanted a more nuanced conversation, and it seems like the show's not interested in that, and that's very frustrating.
I don't know. Early on, it feels like the way they talk about it in the how it's made, they clearly, it feels like they want to. Yeah. It just feels like the show isn't giving us the time where it needs to be for it to be nuanced. Yeah. Which is crazy. Mm-hmm. It's.
Well, and I was thinking earlier, we know next episode is probably going to be a majority of flashbacks between Joel and Ellie,
which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, but then it's maybe they'll do the finale about Abby, but then that's a really horrible follow-up to be see, this thing you were already sad and upset about, here's way more reasons to be sad and upset about it.
Well,
and then here's Abby.
We have to remember is that we do get to see why he kills Eugene. So
True.
That could be another thing of, towards Abby's argument.
Maybe.
Because we talked about that early on about, can you retroactively be was this a one-time thing Joel did? Yeah. Or is this a part of what Joel always was going to be? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how this episode goes. I think this episode could do a lot to push us in the right direction if they let it. Yes. But like I said,
that's the key.
You have to start seeing Abby, because already the viewers hate her, and we have to get to a point where we can start having any, if not empathy, sympathy. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree.
For any part of her.
Yep.
But what are some other things? I guess we can just go. I feel like we jumped around, so maybe jumping straight into our pros and cons.
Yeah.
That we haven't already explicitly said.
Do you want to start this time?
Yeah, sure. So there is a character that returns, which I was very excited about. I did not know that was going to happen.
And another character's probably going to return later, because they were mentioned to also be around.
So I think that was very interesting. I'm gonna also jump to another one of my cons is that that character coming up is also very convenient. It's like like to the point where it's like,
and I don't know if that happens in the game.
You didn't show up now, there would be no more show going forward.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah, that was very, very convenient. I don't know.
In the biz, we call this a Deus Ex Machina.
What?
A Deus Ex Machina is whenever something that's like super overpowered comes in out of nowhere to save the main character from certain death.
That intro was giving the fitness gram pacer test. Anyways.
But
yeah, I totally agree. And I want to ask Cole if that's a part of the game, because I forgot to when we watched it.
That is interesting.
So.
But.
Because I'm happy, but I'm also like, okay. Glad you showed up, I guess.
He's here in some capacity, but I feel like the timing is very like, you couldn't have like run into him right before this. Or,
nope.
I don't know. It's very, very fascinating.
Yeah.
But another thing I like is that there's a hint towards the Seraphites' origins, and it's very passively done.
Yep.
And I feel like it's gonna be really interesting to learn more about it, if under the circumstances of we're going to anyways.
Yeah.
So at least I'm interested in what they're trying to do if I don't get to look at what Abby's doing.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's a very interesting element there. Then there's also, we talked about there's being something from the game. There's a whole set involved with that looks amazing. There is, we get to see, I hate playing the pronoun game, but we get to see another character return. And it's always a
maybe
pleasure
a
to
character
see
we don't like, but the actress.
The actress we love seeing.
Anyways.
There is also, we also get to see the Seraphites, how they kill the people that we saw in the last episode.
Yeah, because we saw them, like, the aftermath, but we get to see it happen this time. And
and it is brutal.
Yep.
Take that, Final Destination.
Yeah.
We see some more smart zombies, and they continue to be very terrifying.
Yep.
Very effectively terrifying.
Yeah. I will say one of my cons was I wish we got to see them do more specifically, like, smart things, like the first one did, where they were hiding, then they were, like, distracting. And like,
and
I
this
wish
one, it feels more, because they almost feel like wolves now. Which
yeah,
I think
it
is a
almost
very
just
fun
feels
thing for
like,
them to become.
yeah.
And, I think sometimes...
Wolves, WLF,
Oh,
WLF.
That's fun. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely smarter, for sure. Like, they're better fighters, but I wish we saw a little bit more, like, especially when they're, like, a team now of smart ones, maybe they work together a little better. I don't know.
We're all in this
I don't know.
together.
Maybe have, like, one person distracting and another person sneaking up from behind. Like, I don't know, man.
Hey,
Anyways.
you don't know their lives. At this rate, we'll probably get their backstory before we get Abby.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. That's what season 2 is going to be about, actually. Or season 3, sorry. Yeah.
What else did I like? Ellie gives a reveal to a character. Obviously, they have a reveal for us, but it's mostly a reveal to one of the characters, and it is performed like a cold bitch.
Yep.
And
I love that for her. She ate that whole scene. She really did. Oh, I love that for her.
And then it ends on a Joel and Ellie.
Jolene.
Oh my god. Flashback, and so it looks like that's what the entire next episode is going to be, and that is very exciting. I fear this is going to be another peak. Unfortunately, it's another peak of the season before the finale.
Yeah.
So
what the heck is going to be? I mean, it kind of like has to be something with Abby in the finale. Like, it has to be, right?
I hope so.
Right?
I really hope so.
You think so? I don't know.
Okay, you go ahead. Did I miss any pros for you?
Let's see. Oh, Ellie and Dina continue to be a strong highlight for me.
For sure.
Dina has a speech about her past and something that happened, and if it went a little differently, what she would do. Right. And I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, and it ties into the theme.
And I hope they're going where I think they're going. Anyways, no comment. No further comment.
Interesting.
You're probably way misinterpreting that.
I don't know how to interpret it, but I will say I like how it ties into the broader conversation of the show, and I like them continuing to give her more agency.
Yeah, I like that it's not just there to protect Ellie. I like that she is her own character. She has her own reasons for being there, her own goals, I guess. That's not the right motive, yes. So I appreciate that. It gives her more agency, and I love that for her. The guest star being kind of a psycho a little bit.
Sure.
Love that. It's very vague. We'll come back to that. The 2 guest stars that show up, they kind of switch the roles from Dina to Ellie about who's like protecting who. Now that they are both aware, now that Dina's aware that Ellie's immune, now it's Ellie's turn to step up and be like, I'm going to protect you now because I can. So, I thought that was fun.
There's a great line where she's like, I'm going to see if there's any zombies through there. And she's like, oh, yeah. Because obviously as the person who's immune to the disease, you are the best person to do this.
You're like, let me. No. Let me. Love Ellie logging in. Love that for her. She does great. And yeah, no, that was it.
Yeah.
You mentioned everything else, so.
Her. Going on to our non-spoiler cons. I'll go ahead and hop onto that list.
Go ahead.
So I talked about the Deus Ex Machina. One of our guest stars kind of needs to read the room a little better.
Mm-hmm. And they're very blind to hypocrisy of their opinions on a situation.
And it almost feels like there's a great argument to be made against what they're saying, and they don't, that we obviously jump to.
Yep.
And we have.
I'm surprised Ellie hasn't tried to get into that.
Ellie doesn't go to that. And it's like,
yeah.
This is a very easy way to be like, actually, you're wrong. And what you're saying is not valid because you're very much overlooking this big thing.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then, like I said, at this rate, I feel so bad for Caitlin Dever that she's just going to be. It was already going to be such a bad fight for her character to be, like, not completely hated and scoffed on the internet by all of the wrong people.
Yeah.
And it feels very, like, I feel so bad for her that the show is not putting in nearly enough effort to try and avoid that.
Yep, I agree.
It feels.
It's very frustrating.
It feels very bad, and it's something that not only should they have been expecting because of the times that this, like, they're putting out this show in. It's a very modern thing for these people to talk about, you know, give an inch, they'll run a mile on how it's the worst thing ever for all of the wrong reasons. But they already did this with this exact same story.
Yeah.
And they're still making that mistake and not protecting or not setting up their actors.
Yep, I agree. It's very frustrating. It would have made for a much better story, and you need to protect your actors. So
yeah, and in any case, if you cut it between these two storylines, like in one case, you see them, you can have them like clearly coming to a head, and like almost Final Destination style, where you know the audience knows something that our characters don't, which is that they're slowly getting closer and closer to like the fight of their lives.
That would be
as they're doing their own things and you know, like we say, these episodes aren't the most interesting watching Ellie and Dina go through stuff. You can cut to whatever you're having Abby do and have some more stakes and height and stuff there to kind of counteract that. And that feels like that is what this story is meant to be. And I don't know how you lose that when you have the original people from the game where that's what the game was.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, that's what the game was. Still have not played the game. But... To my understanding, the whole point of switching between the two was narratively a big part of it.
Yeah. From my understanding, Abby doesn't pursue Ellie ever.
Yes, but still you play as Abby.
Yeah. We still need her perspective, guys. We still need her perspective. Anyways, they seem to think we don't, so oh well.
It's very weird.
I think that's also it. Yep.
Okay.
That's all mine.
So that being said, we're gonna start talking spoilers on this. So, you have been warned. We're about to get into the finer details of season 2, episode 5 of The Last of Us.
Season 5, I wish. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Do you?
No.
This
On
is
a
how,
normal show.
This is how we get the smart zombie
No.
season.
We're gonna get the smart zombies from The Last of Us before we get Marvel zombies. Yeah.
We're supposed to get Marvel Zombies is this year. I'm very excited.
Me too.
I love that episode of What If so much. I'm so excited. I wish it was longer. I wish it was something they felt they could possibly renew.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Marvel made their own animation department just to like stop putting out their own. They're still doing Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
And X-Men 97.
And X-Men 97, but
which are great.
I continue to
but
think.
do more. Do more.
Yeah.
Like, you have 2 shows so far, and they're both really good.
And they did What If.
Shouldn't that be...
Not on the same level.
Okay.
I know you weren't the same, but you
And
had
that's
a
also
show
a
with
show.
literal infinite possibilities.
Yeah. You had a good concept there. You kind of, like, hit some of the marks. But
Some episodes definitely
anyways.
hit.
Yeah.
Which inherently in a show like that, not every show is going to be the same.
Yeah.
Or every episode.
Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah.
Back to topic. We're talking about
Back
Last
to
of Us.
The Last of Us.
So, Nora. I think we jump into the Nora of it all.
Yeah. Nora was the guest star that we don't like, but we love the actress.
I like her, and I still like what
Yeah.
they're doing, but like everything else, it just feels like the showrunners are setting Abby's team up to come off as crazy.
Yeah.
When they don't need to be.
No.
They can just be wrong and not crazy.
Yep. It's just wild that she's like, well, Joel shot a man in the head, and that man was Abby's father. So, like, he deserved what was coming to him. I'm like, and you brought this up. Very good conversation. In the grand scheme of things, when you are living in an apocalypse world, getting shot in the head and instantly dying is like a great way to go, actually. In the grand scheme of things, like, I mean, you could be like turned into a zombie, so
Yeah.
or tortured and killed in front of your daughter. What? Who would do that?
Yeah.
I
with
would
your
hate that
with your
person.
well, while the people torturing you have also kidnapped your like other adoptive daughter.
Yup.
So.
Yep. And it doesn't make it any better in the game because it's his brother. So, like, still equally horrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Anyways.
I don't know. It's so weird. The scene itself is fun enough to forgive most of it, but there's still that overarching issue that we've been seeing about just the way this show is structured.
Yeah.
And how it's counteractive to the points it's trying to make.
Yeah. Because if it's trying to, like, you know, make up for not having Abby's point of view with her other members of the group when it happened, trying to defend her, it's not working well.
Yeah.
Because they don't have good logic there, so.
Because it almost feels like. Because a whole part of, like, switching to Abby's perspective that I was really looking forward to was learning about all of these characters I'd never heard of before. And some great actors. Like, at this point, if they are going to try and do, like, Abby starting with season 3, then it's going to be a time jump back. And maybe we see it where it's like, oh, Nora, they need you to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Again, like you always do. What could go wrong? And it's going to be that kind of thing. And it's just like, cool. Wouldn't it have been so cool if this happened while that was happening?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
Because otherwise, what a waste of good cast members.
Yeah, I agree. What a great cast.
I love Tati Gabriel so much. Fell in love with her when I first saw her in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah.
I've loved her in You.
Mm-hmm. And we have Danny Ramirez as well.
Danny Ramirez didn't start out strong.
No.
Well, and he plays an asshole.
Yeah.
And he plays the asshole well.
But you also have, like, I think her name is Mel. I don't know the actress's name, but the character's name. The one that heals them.
Her.
She was really interesting. And that's, a nuance in the friend group. Because she hated what was happening. She was literally crying.
I remember being told that Owen was like a character to look out for and that he was really interesting in the game.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So it's so interesting that... Cool, so am I going to watch them all die before I see how they interact with Abby?
Yeah.
As a dynamic? That feels counterintuitive because I don't feel the weight of this.
Mm-hmm.
I see the one horrible thing that she did... Well, I see the biggest horrible thing that she did to the character that I'm following. Mm-hmm. And then I see her stand by that, and then I see her die. Mm-hmm. And is that what it's going to be for all of these characters? Because that's not interesting, because I don't feel anything about them.
Nope. And it's not building a good story to have some nuance there for Abby. So, anyways, I don't know. Let me see if
it's going to be weird, because I don't know if you can build that nuance backwards. I guess we'll see if they can try it with this next episode, as I think they're clearly trying to do, and I think there's some potential there, but they laid groundwork to do that.
Yeah.
And are they doing that here? I guess we'll find out eventually.
I guess we'll see. Doesn't seem like it, but maybe. Anything else about Nora? Let's talk about Ellie's reveal.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, there was multiple, but one...
Actually, I want to kind of lead it right before that scene.
Okay.
So they go into this segmented part of the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's clearly being shoved off and locked out. And they kind of break through as Ellie's chasing Nora through this hospital. And they get onto this floor that was quarantined off because the spores are in the air.
Yep.
And just breathing on that floor infects you, and they start growing in you while you're alive and start using your lungs to push out more spores. And it's essentially a fate worse than death. Mm-hmm. And so
Loki worse than becoming a clicker, because
at least
at least you could move. Yeah, that's true. At least you were dead. At least you could move. They're just chilling.
Yeah, I don't know. So she goes on that floor, and then she's breathing heavy because she got fungus in her lungs.
She's like,
you have killed us, and she's like, oh,
have
did
I? And I love that for her. She's like, sure, Jan.
I don't know. And then it becomes very interesting because they're like, oh my gosh, we thought you were a myth. And it's like, what the heck do you think your dad was doing in that hospital? So, furthermore, you have no idea what was going on there.
Yeah, you have no idea
still felt inclined to be doing all that.
Yep. I don't know. Because I don't even know in the game if Abby ever finds out what her dad was doing. Ugh. That would suck if she didn't know. Anyways.
But it's...
I was like, why would somebody not tell her that?
So crazy.
Why would Joel not tell her that? Why did Joel not say anything? He's like, I hated your speech so much, I'm not going to say anything.
I'm going to go on
in a vow of silence.
Strike.
Yeah. He said that speech sucked. Zip the lips.
This show has a writing my writing team has
is
going on writer's strike.
Sorry. That's crazy. Ooh, speaking of the Marvel and the Avatar VFX teams came out today. I saw on Twitter that they got a lot of bonuses negotiations, bonuses, overtime, stuff,
signed break periods.
Yeah, a lot more protection. So good for them.
I love to see a part of the industry that is so integral, especially to these bigger movies, get what they freaking deserve for all of the horrible work that they've had to do in the past, horrible working conditions that they've had to endure in the past. Because
it's nice to see that the strike actually led to something, because it's frustrating. Yeah, it was frustrating seeing them work so hard and then to fight back against AI, and then it's still taking over.
A huge problem.
So it's good that something actually came from that. Good for them.
And then another thing, I'll just briefly jump on that conversation. It also hurts my heart to see some actors leaning into AI so heavily in filmmaking.
Did you see the Fortnite Darth Vader AI voice thing?
But I'm mostly talking about Natasha Lyonne directing an AI movie.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I did not see that. Ooh, no girl, no girl.
Girl, you are beloved by a good population, and that is going to ruin it.
Why would you do that?
No.
Wait. We just need Tom Cruise. Somebody needs to tell Tom Cruise, and then he can put a stop to it. He'll do it. He'll handle it.
He'll stop the entity.
Yeah, he'll handle it. It's fine.
Okay,
Anyways, back to our thing.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was worth mentioning. So.
For sure. Oh, and then Ellie. Whoa. Ellie's reveal. Sorry, going through all the ship names right now.
Oh. Well, maybe perhaps not.
Ellie says she's the cure, and she knew what he did, and I'm gonna beat you with this pole anyways, because I'm the protagonist.
I like that somebody pointed out that it was a heavier object, and she swung it harder than Abby, and I think that's really funny.
That's fresher.
Anyways, crazy, because that's, like, not supposed to happen. Abby's supposed to be, like, really buff. But anyways, it's fine.
Maybe, wait.
It's fine. She did break the golf stick.
Maybe that's
why
we're...
Sorry.
Maybe that's why we're not seeing her. Maybe she's...
Bulking up?
Bulking up? The time that happened.
Why, though? She doesn't have anything to do now.
She, like, comes in and it's, like, Shaggy from that one scene in Scooby-Doo 2 where he's...
Yes! I know exactly
built like
what
a
you're talking
Roblox
about.
character. It's like,
Not the Roblox.
we're gonna need a bigger golf club.
Give me the supersized one. Give me the big one.
Jesse?
Oh, anyways.
But,
Yeah.
so it's very interesting that she knows the details of what happened there.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that we're gonna jump to a time where it looks like they were happy in the Jackson's whole town. So I think it's going to be interesting because it gives the impression that it's not something she knew when they got there, but it's something she learned.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see, because that means that the whole place where they started in that, like, rough patch, it was caused by... Maybe it's her discovering it, but how does she discover it? Does it turn to Eugene, who was a firefly? Me thinks so, because he died.
He died.
So...
Maybe she's like, is that what you did to the people in the hospital? And then he's, like, silent? Or crazy.
Or maybe she makes the connection, because, like I said, she learned that he was a firefly from Jesse that one time. And then maybe that's where she connected what happened with Joel and Eugene. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see when.
But she learned about that, like, late, though.
That's a good point. She was already mad at him. So, I don't know. I hope we get some explanation onto that. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see if they can make that more nuanced. I'm interested
to see where the flashbacks take place. Like, is there one before Jackson, at Jackson?
Oh, everything looks
when
to be
she
in
learns.
Jackson.
Okay.
At least that's the impression I get from the, like.
I thought I saw some, like, greenery, though. Well, I guess maybe it's not winter, you know. I keep thinking of Jackson in, like, the wall kind of episode when it's, like,
yeah, I get it, the North
white. Yeah. So I'm like, I forget there's green when there's not white. So, anyways.
Let me see. Is there anything else to... Oh, I want to talk about the smart zombies real quick.
Okay.
So I loved, like, looking over, and then there's like the... of, like, looking right at them.
Yeah.
And then it's, like, crawling away like a crab, and then they're like, oh no, well, it's only one, right? And then
there's like five.
Like,
yeah.
They're over there.
That's funny.
They're right there. That man is not real. Those girls are not real. I don't know. I continue to love the people who play these smart zombies. I love it when I love it when they shoot them as like a horror movie.
Yeah.
It feels it feels so fun.
Very nice. It feels like a video game as well, in like a really good way. So.
Yeah. Oh, and then Jesse's back. It's Jesse Ex Machina, or whatever. So love seeing Jesse back. I think he's a great character. Wish they did it in a way that didn't feel so cop-outy.
Yeah. Well, and Tommy is back too. Somewhere. They were going to meet somewhere, so I guess maybe that'll happen soon, too. I don't know.
Maybe we'll see if that happens in the finale, I guess. I just could not guess what that finale is.
Nope.
I'd be curious to look at maybe one of the trailers for this movie or this show and seeing what we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. After this episode, though.
Yeah.
Because this is like a lot of the flashback scenes we saw in the trailer are going to happen this episode. So I'd be interested after that to be like, oh, okay.
Ooh, and then I also wanted to talk about the origins of the Seraphites. We see them all worship her.
Yeah.
Or remember her, feel her love.
Feel her love, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's the picture of the woman that Isaac came and surrendered his gun to whenever he came to Seattle.
Interesting.
It's Cassie's mom's face on the wall.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
So, and we haven't seen her present day, so it feels like there was maybe a divide there between
and he did
to lead Seattle.
He did make a point to say that one Seraphite that Isaac was torturing did say, you know, more of your, or only your people are coming to our side, not vice versa. So, like, yeah, that could happen.
Yeah, I'm very interested. You know, like I said, it's definitely not the reason I'm tuning into this show. But if I'm being forced to look at it, they made a really interesting development.
Yeah.
And it's so casual, too. Like, I can I don't think I've seen anyone mention that. But I spotted that. So
yeah.
It would be very interesting. I wonder how much of this is from the game as well. Because that's a very interesting element.
Mm-hmm. I think the only thing we haven't touched that I have is Dina's speech. I just wanted to specify what she said. So her speech was very interesting. She talked about how, well, the first person, quote unquote, that she killed, which is, you know, not really, but she feels guilty about it, and she would blame herself because she was a little girl who always wanted to go outside, but because of the apocalypse, they didn't want to go outside, or by herself. So they would go, and then she wandered off, and by the time she came back, like, she started hearing screaming, but by the time she got back, someone had already killed her family. And I think she said she killed him?
Yes.
Right?
He turned around and she shot him.
Yeah, so I guess maybe that's who she's talking about.
Yes.
I guess. Okay. At first I was like, are you talking about your mom and, like, her sister or whoever she mentioned? 'Cause you didn't do that, but, you know, maybe you feel guilty about it. But
she did that one.
Definitely that guy. And she said, you know, if he had made me watch, like Nora and Abby made you watch, I would have spent my entire life hunting them down if I had to kill them. Like, I promise you that's what I would have done. That's a very clear, this is now a part of who Dina is as a character that I would say is very different from the game. And I like it. I like that I feel like that gives her agency and that gives her a reason to be with Ellie. And I feel like the story, if they keep going in that direction, will flow better and the message will hit better in the ending. That's what I'm going to say about that. So.
Yeah, I really like, because they're both on this journey for similar reasons, but they're such different characters otherwise. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to see two characters that are so different, you know, regardless of the connection, the, like, relationship that they have. Mm-hmm. They still would be here regardless.
Yep.
And I think that makes their dynamic really work.
Yeah. Well, and that's also very, like, I'm in it for the long run. Like, however long this takes, whatever we have to do, I'm going to be here for it, and I'm going to do it.
Might need to take a pause at 9 months, but...
Yeah, that is one thing... I'm not even going to talk about it, but yeah. I think... Again, you're misreading what I'm saying, but it's fine.
What's happening?
That's a good thing, because I'm not good at lying, so it's good that you're misreading what I'm saying. Anyways. Moving on.
Okay.
Anyways. Is that it?
I think that was everything we had on this. So, you know, we have 2 episodes left. And like I said, we know the next episode's going to be a lot of flashbacks. Mm-hmm. Maybe, honestly, hopefully it ends with them meeting back up with Tommy, Dina, and Jesse, so that we don't have to spend time in the finale doing that. Yeah. And then they can do something hopefully big with
Abby.
God,
please.
I need a good finale.
Yeah.
Need.
Anyways, it'd be nice if they, like, spent most of the finale about Abby and, like, the last part of it connecting the Seraphites as the villain to both of them. Maybe. That would be nice. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm very, very interested. Or you know what I almost fear? And I fear to manifest this. I almost fear.
I know what you're gonna say.
Do you?
Maybe.
I fear it's going to be like they run. Ellie finds Abby, and it's going to be that point is the finale of season 3, and season 3 starts with everything Abby was doing leading up to that point.
Oh.
I was about to say, there's no way you're about to guess what I'm going to say.
No, I don't think so. I'll have to read about what happens in the game again, but I don't think so. I don't know.
They have a lot of legwork to catch up with on Abby.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe in the game, like Ellie's storyline, she finds Nora and then she finds Abby. I don't know, but I don't think so though. There's one reason I really don't think so.
But then otherwise, this feels like such a weird. I mean, already it's just such a weird way to format this show.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird.
Anyways.
So I don't know. I really kind of don't know what to expect from the finale.
Timeline-wise, I don't think that's gonna happen. Let me put it that way. I think so.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to next week's episode. I think tomorrow is gonna be, or not tomorrow, but next Sunday is gonna be a really great episode.
Yeah.
Which sucks that we won't be able to watch it until at least Tuesday.
It's okay. Or we could just watch it separately. We've done it once with the second episode, mind you. So I think we can do any other episode. I think it's fine. So, anyways.
So, okay, I think we can call it there. So, let us know what you guys think of The Last of Us as well. But mostly I'm interested in Andor.
Yeah.
As the door kind of shuts on that one. So,
let
us know what you think about
both of those.
Andor Season 2, The Last of Us. What else?
Yeah.
We'll see you when we see you. Final Destination is our next one that we're doing, Bloodlines.
Yeah, go watch that. That should come out soon, probably the following day. We should wrap up because my cat is kind of crashing out right now. I don't know what's going on, but she is having a crash out right now. So
perfect. On that note, I am your host, Lou.
I'm your other host, Alicia.
And thank you guys so much for listening to Not So Straight Nerds.
Bye.
Bye now.